So, Karen, when we first met, you had a dog.
I did.
No, she was a great dog.
She was the best dog.
The best dog.
The best dog.
Do you miss her?
Oh my gosh, yes.
You miss her a lot, right?
I do. Sometimes I even dream about her still.
Well, you are in luck, my friend, because our next guest is a paranormal investigator who also happens to be a medium. Now, you know that mediums speak with people from the other side, right? Well, our next guest also does that, but he also speaks with animals.
Really?
From the other side. Yes. And he's known as a pet medium. And he's here today to give us a lowdown on what's like for our pets on the other side.
Oh.
My name is Will.
And I'm Karen.
And unlike Mulder and Scully,
we both want to believe.
So we've embarked on a journey of discovery.
We've talked to people deeply entrenched in the spiritual and metaphysical world.
We've thrown ourselves into weird and wonderful experiences. I even joined a coven of witches.
And wait, you joined a coven?
Yep, all in the interest of finding something.
Anything.
That will prove that there's something beyond this physical,
three-dimensional world we all live in.
This is the Skeptic Metaphysicians.
Welcome to the Skeptic Metaphysicians. I'm Will.
And I'm Karen.
And today we have the pleasure of welcoming Rob Gutro to the show. Rob is the author of the Pets and the Afterlife series of books, the latest of which, Messages from Dog Spirits, can now be found on Amazon and wherever books are sold. Rob, I am incredibly excited to have you on the show, mostly because Karen is such an animal lover. I know she's fairly giddy right now.
I'm so excited.
So thanks for coming on the show.
Well, thanks for having me, Will and Karen. I really appreciate you having me today.
Well, it's our pleasure to have you. I'm going to just go ahead and open the floor up for Karen because I know she's chomping at the bit. So, Karen, what do you got for Rob?
God, I have so many questions. I guess my first question is, how did you find out you could do this? And how did you know it was animals? And I guess I got lots of questions. How do they speak? We'll start with the first one.
Let's take it one question at a time, Karen.
How did you first realize you were communicating with animals?
Well, first I had to communicate with people, and I learned that back when I was a teenager, and my grandfather appeared to me about 6 or 7 months after he died, and he scared the daylights out of me. Yeah. I actually told my parents, and it turned out my mother had the ability, but she was afraid to use it. So what's interesting is that no, she wasn't surprised, but she did tell me about her, that she had the ability, which was a comfort to me that I wasn't going crazy, but I kind of buried it for a long time while I was getting, growing up and going to school and going to work and all that stuff. And in 2005, I had a puppy, and I bonded with him very quickly because he came to me with pneumonia, and I got him well. And when he was 7 months old, I was walking him and his leash opened. He ran across the street and was killed by a car.
Oh.
And he became the world's best canine communicator, and he really reawakened my abilities. As a medium, I hadn't thought about being a medium at all for my entire life until 2005. And I used to journal everything, so I wrote everything down, and that became the foundation of my first book.
Wow. So how did your dog first kind of make contact with you?
Well, there are a number of ways. The first way was actually a musical sign, and I learned as I got more in tune with things that there's no such thing as a coincidence when it comes to spirit. So what happened was after my neighbors all came out, they helped me. We took his body back to my house. I called the vet, but as soon as I went into the house, I opened the door, and the radio was not on when I left to walk the dogs. It was him and another dog of my roommates, but the radio was on when I came back, and the radio was playing the Dance by Garth Brooks, about a man who loved deeply for a very short time and was very grateful. And I thought, there's no song that could be more appropriate than that. There was another song that came on right afterward, which was also very appropriate. But once I took him to the vet, I drove him to the vet. Some friends met me there, and we were standing in the parking lot waiting for the vet to just kind of clean him up, and so I could say goodbye. And a trash can lid into the trash can right next to us popped off and was shot about 4 feet in the air. Now, there was nothing behind it. There was nothing there to do that. And I knew it was him because I heard him in my head, and he said, "Dad, I'm here." And that kind of freaked me out.
We're freaked down ourselves right now.
So that was the beginning. But he gave me signs, in many different ways over the years.
And when he said, "Dad, I'm here," was it just a feeling of that communication, or did you hear words?
Oh, I can hear them. So pets are amazingly intelligent.
Hmm.
They have the intelligence of a 3 to 5 year old child, according to Dr. Stanley Coren, who wrote a couple of books that I love called How Dogs Think and The Intelligence of Dogs. So uh, my books explain, my books actually cite his studies, and dogs learn on a lot of different levels. They learn language, they learn emotion, they have instinctual learning, they learn social interaction. We teach them how to go to the bathroom, we teach them to go to obedience school, we take them to the doctor. And I love to say the only difference between a human child and a dog is that dogs won't grow up and marry someone you don't like and move away. Right?
Hmm. Hmm. Well, so Rob, I got to ask you because I ask this all the time. The question on my mind right this second is when you say you can hear that,
Mhm.
like, is it an auditory thing or is it in your mind that you hear that? Because we've heard both ways.
Yeah, for the most part, it's in my head. A lot of the ways that spirits communicate with people are telepathically. So, as a paranormal investigator, when I go on investigations for earthbound ghosts, and ghosts are earthbound, spirits have crossed over. That's the way I define them.
Oh, okay.
When I encounter a ghost, I actually can see them in my mind. So I sketch them out. I bring a book with me and I sketch them out. I learned how to draw, by the way, from my mom, and I used to draw superheroes when I was a kid. So it comes in handy as an adult.
Yep. So then you draw them out in your paranormal investigations, but do you do the same thing with the animals? What occurs to me is someone comes to you and says, Rob, I need to talk to my pet goldfish who died yesterday. I had to flush him.
Mhm.
Is it just dogs and cats or is it any kind of animal?
Good question. It is any kind of domesticated animal. I actually have done a short reading with a fish, believe it or not, because fish can only convey to me what they see from their environment, what they see and what they hear. So, but for the most part, it's dogs and cats, it's horses. I've done birds and rabbits and gerbils and even a rat. So, um, no spiders and no snakes and
No.
no reptiles.
Now, what's the most impactful communication you've had with a pet?
Oh my gosh! You mean how many times have I cried during a reading?
Well, no, I mean, have you ever had like, a dog say, "Well, tell my owner, not to go into this room because there's a snake in the corner under the bed," something like anything like that?
So there's been no warnings. There have been some pets who have told me that they didn't like the person's boyfriend or girlfriend, but those are kind of things that you kind of hedged about whether to disclose or not, because it's really about the pet. So I think one of the most moving pet readings I've ever done is a cocker spaniel puppy that passed away, and his name was Clancy, and his mother didn't know how he passed away, and she was out actually with friends the night he fell ill, and her husband was watching him. And I think this is my Pets in the Afterlife 2 book, but it's a good lesson from a spirit. So she wrote me and she told me that when she was called home because the dog was very sick, and from her husband, and she called the emergency vet. They told her to either bring the dog in or watch the dog if the dog it doesn't look like it's uncomfortable, and then make an assessment in a couple of hours and then bring the dog in. So she said, okay, I'll wait a couple of hours, watch the dog, and bring the dog in. Well, in a couple of hours the dog passed away. This was a puppy, so she didn't know what happened. She had no idea because the puppy was fully healthy when she left. Well, so what I ask people to do is send me a picture of their pet, give me their pet's name, tell me if it's a male or a female, because I don't know, like if Peanuts is a male or a female, for instance.
Right.
Tell me the name of the person or people in the house, because all those people want to be acknowledged by their pet, and any questions they have. So she asked about how the dog died. And so Clancy is the dog's name. Clancy showed me that he was eating plants in the backyard. And so when I wrote this reading up, I emailed her and I said, here's a link to the SPCA website about toxic plants. Please let me know if any of these are in your backyard. And she wrote me back and she said, oh my God, there are a number of those plants in my backyard. Clancy loved to eat plants. He was out in the backyard that night. Now I understand. So Clancy's message, which really choked me up, is a warning to pet parents to be aware that some of your common houseplants are toxic to your dogs and cats. So that was probably one of the hardest ones for me.
Yeah, that sounds like a hard one. Now, are they around all the time, or do you have to physically have to tune in to something?
Just gonna ask that.
Yep, it sounds like we're tuned in.
You are. You're reading each other's energy. That's fantastic. They are not around us 24/7 like they are in life. So when anybody passes, so what happens after we pass is that the memories, personality, and knowledge that we have of this life couples with the energy that is within us. We all have energy. If you think of how the brain works and thoughts are little electrical impulses, if you think of cell splitting and so forth, that's energy. And it has to go somewhere according to the law of conservation of energy. So it couples with memories, personality, and knowledge, and we choose to either stay here on Earth at a fixed location of our choosing, and that's what I call a ghost, or we cross over, join the energy of the universe or cosmos. That's what I call a spirit. And some people, people can call that heaven or paradise or whatever you want to call on the other side. So pets who pass, like people who pass, don't stay and stick around. They're busy enjoying the afterlife as energy. So
Okay, so Rob, you said that the ghosts will remain in a fixed spot. Does that mean they can't, like, if you move, your dog is staying at your old house, or your dog's ghost is staying at your old house, even though you might physically move?
So that's what really typically happens with a ghost, but 99% of our pets cross over into the light, because when they pass, our loved ones are waiting for them. Our pets that we maybe have had when we were a child are waiting for them. And because dogs and cats and all animals are sensitive, they can sense emotion. And in the light, there's nothing but love and acceptance and peace. So they all go to it. Humans, however, are stubborn and they turn away from it from time to time. That's why there's more human ghosts than there are animal ghosts.
So what you're saying is that all dogs do go to heaven.
Very good. Yes.
Every once in a while you hear about that cat ghost, but you don't hear about the dog ghost.
Right.
There is one exception, though, Will, and I met an exception in England when I visited a little dog named Fanny that belonged to Mr. and Mrs. John Soane, who he was an architect in England. And when I walked into his house, which is now a museum, there was a little dog that was running around, and I knew it was a ghost, and I wound up confirming that with the people that worked there.
Why would a dog stay? Were you able to communicate with Fanny?
Fanny stayed because she was very bound to Mrs. Soane. And Mrs. Soane was still alive when Fanny passed. So Fanny did not want to go into the light. She wanted to stay, and she wound up getting stuck.
You hear the dogs in your head. You get the messages from them that you give to the owners. I can only assume that you've gotten some positive reinforcement from some of the folks that have come to you for you to go, okay, yeah, I am really talking to someone's pet, rather than me just kind of hoping and wishing that I was hearing someone's pet. So can you give us some examples of some of those success stories that you've encountered?
Sure, gosh. I did readings for 10 years free of charge, and a lot of those people would ask me if I would put them in a book. So I did. That's how Pets in the Afterlife 1 started. So now I have 3 books, and I have 2 more Pets in the Afterlife all written, ready to go. So there were quite a number of examples. One particular dog, his name was Buddy. He came to me. What I do is I ask people to send me their name, the dog's name, a picture, and any questions, and the number of people in the house. So this couple sent me a picture of their dog Buddy. I met them at a lecture I did. They were crying through the lecture for the most part, and they could barely talk to me at the end. They just gave me their email, and I gave them mine, and they sent me a note. So Buddy came through, long story short, and Buddy provided a whole bunch of things. He told me how he went through a drive-through and got an ice cream on his last day. And that was his favorite thing, his favorite treat. He also told me about his favorite place to walk, which was a long dirt path with the tallest pine trees I have ever seen. He also told me about his grandmother named Elsie, but he spelled it out Elke. And I just thought, these people are going to think I'm out of my mind. So I wrote to them and I told them all this, and they wrote me back and they said, we can confirm everything. They did take
Wow.
Buddy through a Wendy's drive-through and got him an ice cream on his last day. Then they let him sit in the park and watch other dogs. They also confirmed that they liked taking him to Germany, which is the wife's mother's home. The dog loved going through a walk on a dirt path through the Thurgarten forest, which happens to have the tallest pine trees in the world.
Wow.
The wife's mother's name is Elsie, spelled Elke.
Oh my gosh.
That's pretty cool.
Uh,
All right. That's pretty
yeah.
cool.
Wow.
So it's kind of chilling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty
Oh
cool.
my gosh.
So do pets ever come to you unbidden? I know we touched on a little bit. You said that most of them, they're not around us all the time. But like, for example, Kieran's dog, Kyra,
Mhm.
was it possible that while we're talking, she might stick her snout in your face and go, hey, you got to tell my mom something? And I'll tell you why, because the people who are only listening to the show right now don't see your background. So if you want to check out his background, go to the YouTube video to check it out. It just so happens that the dog that you have in your background looks exactly like Kyra, Karen's old dog, who was also a Weimaraner, both as a puppy and as a grown dog. So it's kind of ironic that we're having you on the show now.
So, yes, actually, so there's no such thing as a coincidence when it comes to spirit. And that is a sign from your dog that your dog is very much around you. When you see a dog that resembles your dog anywhere, either out walking or in a picture or somewhere, know at that time your dog brought you to that moment so you can see that picture to know that they're still with you. That's how it works.
I'm gonna cry now.
You need a Kleenex? We were there when she passed. Karen was directly there. I was in the other room. So it was a sad time. And to know that she's still around and kind of nuzzling us every once in a while, it's kind of comforting to know that.
That was tough. I'd had her for 16 years. And for a big dog, that's a long time.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, my dog Dolly, we adopted another Weim after Buzz passed in 2005, and Dolly just passed in October 2020, and she was just a couple weeks shy of 16, and she's my heart dog, and I can tell you a story about how, with an experience with her, that she helped me realize, well, she helped me confirm that people are waiting on the other side.
That people are waiting specifically for you, or just that in general people are waiting?
They were waiting for her because it was her time to cross. It was the night before she passed.
Oh, so who waits for the pet on the other side? If you're with her here, who's there waiting for her?
So your relatives in spirit and any pets that you may have had. And what happened was I was sleeping on the floor with her in the kitchen. I always, in the last couple of months before she passed, I would always sleep in the kitchen until she fell asleep. Me and our little dachshund who was bonded to her. And we waited for her to go to sleep, and then we would get up and go to bed. Well, on that last night, I stayed there, and so did our little dachshund Tyler. And at 2:30 in the morning, Dolly woke up and was staring at one side of the kitchen. And she was in the kitchen because she was incontinent, by the way. She was wearing a diaper. So she wouldn't stop staring. And I finally said, lay down, lay down, lay down. And she wouldn't lay down, so I finally looked over there, and right in the kitchen, at that door, were my mom and dad, who passed, our friend Ed, and our 3 dogs. It was hard to see, but they were there for an instant. And the next day, my friend Ruthie, who's a medium, texted me and she said, Rob, Dolly is okay. And she said she was greeted by your parents and some other guy and your 3 dogs. And, I can sense spirits all the time, but it just destroyed me emotionally.
Yeah.
So
I can only imagine. Pets for people, I mean, really part of the family. right?
What's that unconditional love?
Yeah.
No matter what, they just love you, and to lose that is just devastating.
Yeah.
As a scientist in my day job, I just want to tell you that I've read surveys, papers, research papers that confirm that people grieve more deeply for their loss of their pets than they do for most people.
Wow.
You know what? I believe it.
Yeah, no.
Not for any other reason other than what you just said, Karen, that the unconditional love that these pets actually give you throughout life, the bond is much tighter than with a lot of people.
Yeah.
So are there some people, Will, on your not so good list that are not going to be grieved over a lot?
I can neither confirm nor deny anything because they could be listening. So
Let's just say he misses Kyra a lot.
well,
Okay.
Now, when you're approached by clients, what are they typically asking you for? Like, do they just want to know that their pet's okay, or is there anything specific people want when they reach out to you?
Sure, there are a number of things that people often ask me. One is the pet okay? Number two is, do they forgive me for helping them cross over and out of pain? And the answer is always yes. Number three, they want to know who they're with, if there's anything they should do. Should I adopt another? How will I know you're here? What signs will you give me? One question that really that some people ask that really it's hard to answer is, what's your favorite memory with us? Because as we grow older, our memories change. I mean, our favorite memories change. I mean, I have a lot of favorite memories, but what was a favorite 10 years ago is not as much of a favorite as more recent memories.
Right.
So, and it's the same thing with a toy too. People say, well, what's my favorite toy? I'm like, well, what year?
Or what 10 minutes if it was our dog? Just
So
chew those
that's
things
hard.
right up.
Yeah.
Do people ever want proof? Like, do they ask you anything really specific? And if so, what kind of questions do they ask?
So people do, everybody wants proof. And actually within every reading, whether or not I intend to give it or not, it doesn't matter. It all depends on what the pets tell me. So in one particular instance, I remember I think it was a Great Dane came through to me and said, I remember the only one time in my entire life that I came back to the house covered with mud. Just one time in my entire life. And of course I write that down, and I wrote it and I sent it to them. And the dog's mom wrote me back and she said, oh my gosh, there was only one time, it was at my mother's house, where our Great Dane was covered with mud in his entire life. So she said, how would you know that? I said, well, that's what your dog told me.
Wow.
well,
Can't refute that.
so in your books, you talk about the ways that pets actually communicate with their parents and things like that, and you actually teach people in the book to look for the signs that your pet might be communicating with you. Can you share a couple of those with us?
Sure, absolutely. There's quite a number of ways that pets will communicate with us. So they may give us some audible signs, like nails on the floor. You may hear a bark or meow, if you will. It always sounds like it's coming from another room, but that's because it takes a lot of energy, and it means that it's actually right near you. You can dream of your pet, and Karen, I think you said that you have many dreams. So that means that your dog keeps coming through to you to let you know that she's around. They can get physical. You can feel them like curl up against your legs, or people often report cats walk across the end of their bed. You may feel a cold spot. Now, in paranormal investigations, cold spots have always been kind of a hallmark of ghosts, but nobody ever explained them. But I'm a meteorologist, so I'm going to explain it for you. Awesome. What happens is, because, and this is what happens when you talk to a geek. So what I've come to find out is that, fast-moving molecules of air are warm air. Slower-moving molecules of air are colder air. So what happens is the ghost or the spirit will absorb the energy of motion of those molecules, slowing them down, creating cooler air where they are trying to show up. That's why we get a cold spot.
I knew there was a reason for it. I knew it. And I knew someone was going to tell us on the show, and I finally did it. Thank you, Rob.
And Will, I don't know if you remember, but the soundproof, it's not.
You're very welcome.
What I'm thinking about is not the nails, but remember how Kyra used to flap her ears really loud?
Yep.
And it was like 2 years ago here that we heard that. Remember?
Yep.
We're like, oh my God, that sounds just like Kyra sounded. She passed away about 6 years ago in a different place. So it was weird to hear that sound here. I remember thinking, what? What was that?
Well, so that brings up another point, is that spirits can find you anywhere, anytime, any place, because they're connected to you by the love that you share with them. I was on vacation in 2009 in Puerto Rico, and I wasn't thinking about what date it was. And we had to choose which direction to walk. I picked one because I felt nudged to go in a certain direction. And when we got to the end of the street, there was a dog walker. He was walking a whole bunch of dogs. One was a Weimaraner that looked like Buzz. And I heard Buzz say, "Dad, do you know what day it is?" And suddenly I remembered it was 4 years to the day of the anniversary of his passing.
Wow.
Not a coincidence.
You are definitely making Karen cry.
Oh my God.
Sorry about that, Karen.
If he was a poodle, I wouldn't have cared as much, but it's a Weimaraner.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So birthdays, anniversaries, and holidays are often the time to look for signs from our pets or our human loved ones, because our energy levels are higher at that point, and they can sense that. So pets can sense your emotions and so forth. And they know when you're happy, sad, depressed, angry, sick, and when you need attention and when to leave you alone. So they often come around those birthdays, anniversaries, and holidays, even the anniversaries of their passing or the anniversaries of their adoption. So those are the times to be on guard. Look for also shadows. You may see shadows out of the corner of your eye. You may feel like a brush of fur or whatever against your leg while you're sitting or sitting on the couch, if your dog was a couch lover. So those are some other signs, but there are many signs. One dog actually used social media.
What?
Okay,
How?
we got to hear the story on that one.
Okay, well, one dog, in order for the dog to use social media, the dog had to have help from a human spirit. And that's what they do. So in this particular instance, my friend Dan, who volunteers at a shelter, really bonded with this one dog, couldn't take the dog home when COVID hit. So the dog went to another foster family. The dog wound up passing over the course of like 2 months later because he was heartworm positive. And Dan was devastated. When Dan was online, months later, the shelter put together a video, and there was a little picture of this dog in it. But it was like 1 minute and 44 seconds into the video. Now, the freeze frame, when he scrolled up on Facebook, if you will, the freeze frame was that dog. Now, you know, online, usually the freeze frame is one of the first frames. It's not 1 minute and 44 seconds into a video. Mm-hmm. And he was astounded. And I watched the video and I'm like, it's 1 minute and 44 seconds, one second clip of that dog.
Wow.
So I told him, I said, that's not a coincidence. That that dog got help from a spirit connected to you so that he would come up when you were scrolling. Because Dan was really grieving over the loss of that dog.
You know, we really learn a lot from our pets, how to be more patient, how to, maybe be more, loving. But you have had so much more of an intense connection with all of these spirits. What have you learned? Like, what lesson have you taken away from being a pet medium?
That pets really are the embodiment of unconditional love, and it makes you appreciate them a lot more, and it makes you not appreciate people as much. To be honest with you.
Sure.
I can neither confirm nor deny.
Evil dogs coming back to haunt the house,
You heard about Cujo? I don't know.
No, he was alive.
That's a good point.
So somebody asked me about evil dogs, and to be honest with you, no. They, it was once they get in spirit, they're aware of their behavior. But we all maintain our personalities on the other side. So if you're a good person in life or a good dog in life, you're going to be a good dog and person in death. If you're a jerk in life, you're going to be a jerk in death.
But that's usually reserved for cats, Karen. So you're good.
Those little dogs can be jerks too.
That's true.
I'm not making any judgments here.
We'll do that for you.
Okay.
We just lost like 500 subscribers. They hate cats and I hate them. I actually, just full disclosure, I had 2 cats when we met. I love cats. I'm a cat lover, so please don't leave us.
See, I'm more of a dog person, but you have to admit the neighborhood cats, for whatever reason, love me, and they come into our house. I let them. They sit on my lap.
I have a
and I'm not a cat person.
I've got a theory. I think they just cats, dogs, fish, reptiles, snakes, whatever it is, they feel young kids. They feel the goodness in you, and they're drawn to you. Is what remember, Daniel Jackson said, "You are an angel walking on this earth," and I believe it. I say it every day to somebody. They're drawn to your light. I'm so completely serious, and I think Rob's going to confirm that right now.
I am. And that's why 99% of the animals cross over, is because they're drawn to that kind of love on the other side.
There you go. So one of the coolest things about you, Rob, is that you do a lot of these things actually by email, right? So it's not like so you could be anywhere in the world and still reach out to you to get a reading from you. And the thing that astounded me the most, honestly, we've talked to a lot of people that have these gifts, and they talk to different people from the other side or do this or that, the other thing. There's a price that comes with these gifts because a lot of people do this for a living. When I did some looking into your skill sets, I found that you only charge $20 to do a reading.
Wow.
Is that still the case?
Absolutely. Yeah. I want it to be affordable to people, because every reading takes a half an hour of my time.
Mm-hmm.
And, you can talk to my husband, who says, "Are you going to spend 6 or 7 hours on a Saturday night up there?"
Hey,
Hello.
full disclosure,
So-
I get the same thing from my wife. So
Well, I imagine part of that time is just getting the dog to come, right?
here, boy, here.
Yeah. There's an administrative side to this too, is that I have to track all these people, and I have to email them all to get all of the things that I need and so forth. So it's really time consuming. I spend about an hour, maybe, or an hour and a half per person when you add it all up. So it's a lot of time. But the reason I do this and I make it affordable is because I want people to find comfort and healing and know that their pets are waiting for them on the other side. Because I have a good job and I work as a meteorologist during the day, I don't need to rely on this as a stream of income. This is my way of trying to, bring some comfort to the world that we live in.
That's so kind of you. Now, I just couldn't help thinking of, so you're a meteorologist. Are you like on TV meteorologist, or do you just do the research part?
No, I have a face for radio. So
No, that's not true.
I used to be on the Weather Channel radio, but now I'm a behind the scenes kind of guy. So, but one other thing I wanted to go back to for just a second is I also do fundraisers for animal rescues all over. If they want me to come and speak about how pets communicate, they can charge, and I don't take anything, don't ask them for anything. They collect all of the money that they raise, and I've been doing it for about 4 years, and several rescues have raised up to $1,800 in one day for their shelters.
That is fantastic.
Yeah. So
Now, have you ever had someone at those events come to you and maybe not so happy about what you're doing because they feel maybe you're taking advantage or you're exploiting the emotions of people who've lost their pets or anything like that?
no, I think only early on I was in a library and I was talking about how people communicate from the other side, people, not pets.
Mm-hmm.
And 2 women knew what I was going to talk about, and they made a show out of being offended and kind of not nice to me in public. I've never forgotten that, but they'll remember that when they're dead. So it is what it is.
Exactly. Oh, dang.
Yeah. But no, and I will tell you that whenever I go to these events, sometimes a dog comes through. I went to the Animal Rescue of New Hampshire, and when I got off the plane in New Hampshire, a dog named Missy came through to me. I was on the plane, and the dog said, "My name is Missy, 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 Missy." And I heard it like 3 times, and I'm like, okay, I don't know who you are, but I'm sure I'm going to meet your mother tonight or today. So when I got to the rescue, just as walking through the door, that little dog was right next to me in spirit. The first 2 women that walked in, they were like 45 minutes early. And I said to one, "Do you have a dog named Missy on the other side?" And the woman was, I swear she almost had a stroke.
I
She,
believe
she
it.
said, she said, yes. Oh my God. She said, I did not want to come to this. My girlfriend here dragged me to it. And so Missy wanted her mother to know that she had clarity of thought again on the other side. And I said, I don't know what that means. And her mother said, I do. She had dementia before she passed.
Dogs have dementia.
So
I
right
didn't know
there.
that.
Yeah. So, oh, dogs get dementia. Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Mm.
So that was an important sign that that little dog wanted her mom, who was a non-believer until that moment, to know
Yeah.
that she's
Wow.
okay. Yeah.
This just opens up so many different levels to me. Like people talk about going over the Rainbow Bridge and all that kind of stuff, but I mean, I don't know how much of that I believe. I don't know how much of anything I believe, right, at any given moment. But you're telling us stories that are irrefutable from what you're telling me. I mean, that's God. I don't even have the words. Like,
Can't even talk.
how could
So
you?
I'll continue. Now,
Yeah, I would never have thought that pets actually do go to heaven. To go back to that dumb cliche, it's just kind of mind blowing a little bit.
That's something that has kind of been a pet peeve of mine all the time, is that, some religions will tell you that pets don't have souls, and that's absolutely, excuse my language, asinine, because everything has a soul. A soul is memories, personality, and knowledge combined with our physical energies, and we all have a soul, everything, and we all go to the same place afterward. So the Rainbow Bridge, by the way, is just kind of an image that was concocted to give people a sense of peace when their pet
Mhm.
passes. There's not really a rainbow bridge. It's actually a tunnel of white light.
Right. Yeah. And I think it comes from like that. Was
some
it
poem.
the poem that talks
Yeah.
about the Rainbow Bridge?
I'm wondering. So when you are doing these readings, I guess at these events that you've been to for fundraisers, you're right there doing the readings with the people. How long does it take you to contact the animal? I mean, are the animals around us all the time, or do you have to call them in? How does that work?
So when I do, sorry, one of our dogs wants to get on the air.
Aw.
So when I do public events, I don't do readings during public events.
Oh, okay.
I actually just talk about how pets communicate from the other side. But every now and then, a dog or cat will come through. And I can sense them in the room, but I'm too focused on explaining to people, how pets communicate, to do readings at that time. That's why I do them all in my home by email, so that I'm not disturbed and it's very quiet and I can concentrate and connect. Because that's the kind of medium I am. I'm kind of a medium rare, if you will. I need to sit
I like that.
by myself.
I think we might have just found the title for an episode: the medium rare medium. Karen, do you have any other last questions?
No, I think I mean, I'm sure as soon as we stop, I'm going to have like 50. Other than, how would someone, get in touch with you if they wanted to get a reading with their pet?
They can go to my website. It's robgutro.com. That's Gutro. And that's without the squeaky that you may hear in the background.
I love it.
But
Yeah.
but if you do the squeaky somehow, you get special treatment on his website. So make sure you have one nearby.
Absolutely. And if people can't remember how to spell my massacred French name, they can type in petspirits.com and that goes to the same place.
Great. Well, we're going to make it easy, and we're going to add direct links to all of your website, social media, all that kind of stuff on our show notes. So all you need to do is go to skepticmetaphysician.com, hit his episode page, and you will see all the direct links. Just click those puppies, pardon the pun, and it'll take you right to Rob so you can connect with him. Rob, this has been fantastic. Any last minute messages you want to make sure our audience hears before we say goodbye?
The only thing I will tell you is, number one, don't feel guilty about helping your pet pass out of pain. Number two, their love for you will bind you to them forever. And number three, they will be waiting for you on the other side. And thank you both for having me today.
It was a pleasure having you. I think we're going to invest in some Kleenex here in a couple of minutes for Karen. But you brought up a great point that now I've got to expand on a little bit, and that is helping your pet pass over. When I was a very young man, I actually volunteered at a pet shelter and was forced to be there holding the animal while they put them down. And that was probably the single hardest thing I've ever
Oh my
had to
gosh.
do in my life. And I always wondered if something like that was, I mean, they put so much trust in you
Oh my gosh.
that I can't
Yeah.
imagine them not being really pissed off at me because I'm holding them while they're getting that shot. So is that the case, or do they understand that we're just trying to ease their pain?
They do understand, and as a matter of fact, I'm sure that that dog and any animals that you helped were very grateful that you were there and being very gentle with them and kind to them. In some cases, pet parents do not. They don't have the courage to go, but I urge everybody to do that, to be there for them. For those that don't, make sure you pet your dog or cat around their nose because it puts your scent there so that they can smell you, because scent is the most important thing. And nobody really wants to die alone. However, I will tell you that if your pet passes when you're away, they did make that choice to die before you got there so that it would not be the last memory that you have. They know how traumatic it would be if they died in your presence, so they do something unselfish and they pass on their own. So that's an important point too.
Karen, just looking at you is breaking my heart right now.
It's a very emotional thing,
It is. Oh my gosh. I was not expecting
and Karen,
this.
I'll tell you, Karen, I have cried a lot when I do readings. As a matter of fact, I did a spaniel, a Cavalier Spaniel last week, and I cried for 30 minutes while I was typing the messages from this dog. And by the end of it, I was exhausted. But the love is just so
imagine.
pure.
Well, Rob, I thank you so much for coming on and talking to us about this. I'm not sure Karen is as happy now as she was at the beginning of the interview, but I really do appreciate you coming on. You've given us a lot to think about and information that really everyone needs to know. So thank you very much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
And as always, if you know someone that would benefit from hearing these messages that we shared on this show or any of our others, I hope you'll consider sharing us with that person. It will help grow the show and may just help someone else come to terms with the fact that we and our pets are so much more than just this three-dimensional bodies that we inhabit. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this episode as much as we have. That's all we have for now. We'll see you on the next episode of The Skeptic Metaphysicians. Until then, grab your handkerchiefs and take care.